The only known recording of the actual gunshots was this recording made by Mr. Pruszynski, and which is somewhat ironic in that Pruszynski was not aware at the time he made the recording that he in fact was still recording. He had set up his microphone and his cassette recorder up at the podium area, had recorded Kennedy's victory statement. And after that had concluded, he came back up to the podium, collecting his microphone and his recorder. And as he was descending the stairs is the point at which the shooting began. He continued to walk into the entryway to the pantry as the shots continued. This is a poor recording, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it would have been lovely if this had been a high-quality recording made with professional equipment right on the scene and as it was happening in the kitchen pantry, but it's not. So we have to make do with what we have. Over this period of the last 3 years, what I found was basically 3 different discoveries. The first discovery was 13 shot sounds over a little bit over a 5-second interval of time. There are 2 shots and then a pause of about 1 1/3 seconds, and then a flurry of succeeding shots, then a number of screams and shouts from that pantry area. Let's just look at part of the shot sequence right up to the scream. The second discovery was that within those 13 shot sounds, there are 2 instances of what I call double shots. And those are 2 shots that occur so close together as to make it really very difficult to believe how they could have possibly come from a single gun. And in fact, last year when the Discovery Times channel hired a gun expert in California, rented an Iver Johnson Cadet 55, which was the weapon that Sirhan had used, and had him under ideal conditions try to shoot it as fast as he could. And I guess the fastest 8-shot average was something like 366 milliseconds between shots. One of the double shots that I found was about 120, 122 milliseconds apart. The other was about 147, 148 milliseconds apart. So about 3 times faster than a gun expert, firing expert, was able to achieve under ideal conditions. And we must remember that at the time that the double shots occurred, Sirhan's gun wrist had been pinned down onto the steam table. If we consider the possibility of 2 guns being fired by 2 different individuals, then we could say that over that same period of time, we would have a random distribution in terms of the occurrence of the shots from those 2 guns, and the likelihood that we would have a couple of virtually overlapping shots occurring from those 2 guns. And that's in fact what we see in these 2 double shot occurrences. As we analyzed further and further, we found a similarity pretty much across the board amongst all of those shot sounds. However, we found one anomaly with 5 of the gunshots. One frequency presented at a higher level, at 1600 hertz, at one particular frequency. At a total loss for what that possibly could be coming from, we did an independent firing range test using 2 different guns, an Iver Johnson Cadet 55, the same that Sirhan had used. The other one was an H&R 922. The security guard, who was positioned immediately behind Kennedy, in fact had Kennedy's right elbow with his left hand at the time, and was carrying a gun that evening, happened to own an H&R 922 at the time of the shooting. That particular model gun has the same rifling characteristics as the Iver Johnson Cadet 55. The security guard sold that particular weapon a few months after the shooting and not prior to the shooting, as he had initially indicated to the police. So anyway, that seemed to be a good second gun to be using for this independent firing range test. The results of that test showed the same frequency anomaly that we had found in the Pruszynski recording. With the H&R 922 as measured from behind, we found the same frequency anomaly. In other words, this abnormally high level at 1600 hertz. We did not notice any resonance characteristics within the frequency bands with the Iver-Johnson. This provided very, very strong evidence then that the source of the second gun was in fact an H&R 922, and that was fired in that kitchen pantry at the same time that Sirhan's Iver-Johnson Cadet 55 was fired. They were able to find 10 shot sounds and one of the double shots, the more prominent of the two double shot occurrences. Had they had more time, I have no doubt that they would have found the others. But what's most important there, rather than to any quibbling that may go on in terms of, well, is it really 10 shots or 12 shots or 14 shots or whatever, the primary point that people need to recall is that the capacity of Sirhan's gun was 8 shots. He did not have time to reload. And so anything more than 8 shots proves there had to be a second gun firing within that kitchen pantry, period. My instrumentation, as good as it is, doesn't spew out a name, okay? So all I have is my scientific findings. All I can say is there absolutely had to have been more than one gun involved. Sirhan could not have shot Robert Kennedy. It certainly could not have fired the fatal bullet. And we have 12 witnesses, basically, that put him 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 feet from Kennedy. So what does that mean? It means that Sirhan was convicted for a crime which he did not commit. So it is the responsibility of the judicial system, the criminal justice system, to rectify that error.
Throughout the Democratic presidency, gaining a lot of steam throughout the Democratic presidential primaries in the summer of 1968. Now, you got to think, if you're the deep state and you have just gone through such great lengths to kill the guy who you didn't want to have in office, the guy who didn't want to have the nuclear Dimona reactor in Israel done, you're trying to block AIPAC, you kill this guy to stop all of that, then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he's got a brother.
RFK's battle to register AIPAC was legendary. And I think if there had been the internet in the 60s and social media as it exists today, the media wouldn't have been able to bury this story. Many top journalists knew what was going on, but they didn't write about this.
And now he's looking like he might become the president. Man, how are you going to stop that, right? I'm just saying if. On June 5th, he is addressing his campaign supporters at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, okay? He concludes his remarks, he exits the stage, and the security begins escorting him through the back kitchen when suddenly, you're not going to believe this, it's so perfect. An anti-Zionist Palestinian walks up and shoots him, and he dies. He's declared dead at the Good Samaritan Hospital the next day, 25 hours later. Perfect. That is, oh my gosh, these Palestinians, you just cannot control them. Except that story doesn't appear to be entirely true either. By the way, not even RFK Jr., we're not in conspiracy land, not even RFK Jr., who visited Sirhan, the person who they say shot him, the Palestinian who they said shot and killed him in prison, RFK Jr. visited him. He doesn't even believe that story. Okay, this is the Washington Post. Who killed Bobby Kennedy? His son, RFK Jr., doesn't believe that it was Sirhan. You would have thought, by the way, that we would have all heard about this back in 2016. But we didn't, or at least I didn't, unless maybe I was under a rock. But even the people who were present when he was shot testified that Sirhan didn't kill him, but rather someone from behind RFK shot and killed him. Okay, take this guy, Paul Schrade, for example. This is a picture of Paul Schrade in 2016. Paul Schrade, at the age of 91 years old, appeared at Sirhan's parole hearing. Schrade was also shot at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He was there in the back. He got shot by Sirhan. And yet here he is appearing for him to be released on parole. And he apologized for missing Sirhan's 14 previous parole hearings. He told Sirhan at that time, quote, "I should have been here long ago. And that's why I feel guilty for not being here to help you and to help me." After the hearing, while Sirhan was being taken away, Schrade shouted, "Sirhan, I am so sorry this is happening to you. It is my fault." I'm sorry, what? You're saying sorry to the guy who shot you and the guy who shot RFK dead? Well, that's not the whole truth. What happened is not the whole truth. Well, at least what was presented to the public was not, if you believe Paul. And here is what he told the parole officers. I'm going to read you his remarks, which, as I said, you would have thought with the mainstream media these would have gone viral, but I guess they were busy doing other stuff. "Sirhan, I forgive you. The evidence clearly shows that you were not the gunman who shot Robert Kennedy. There is clear evidence of a second gunman in that kitchen pantry who shot Robert Kennedy. One of the bullets, the fatal bullet, struck Bob in the back of the head. 2 bullets struck Bob literally in his back. A 4th bullet struck the back of his coat's upper right seam and passed harmlessly through his coat. I believe all 4 of those bullets were fired from a second gunman standing behind Bob. You were never behind Bob, nor was Bob's back ever exposed to you. Indeed, Sirhan, the evidence not only shows that you did not shoot Robert Kennedy, but it shows that you could not have shot Robert Kennedy. First, I want to show you this. It's a letter written in 2012 by my good friend, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr. Bobby wrote this letter to Eric Holder, who was then the Attorney General of the United States. In his letter to Mr. Holder, Bobby requests that the federal authorities examine the Pruszynski recording. Say that again, the Pruszynski recording, the only known audio recording made of his father's assassination at the Ambassador Hotel. The recording was uncovered in 2004 at the California State Archives by CNN International writer Brad Johnson. So somehow this recording was basically buried until somebody accidentally discovered it all the way in 2004. The next document is a federal court declaration from audio expert Philip von Prague, who Johnson recruited to analyze that Pruszynski recording. In this document, von Prague declares that his analysis of the recording concludes that 2 guns were fired in the Robert Kennedy shooting. Von Prague found a total of 13 gunshots in the Pruszynski recording. Sirhan's one and only gun at the crime scene held no more than 8 bullets, and Sirhan had no opportunity to reload it. Von Prague also found what he describes as double shots, meaning 2 gunshots fired so close together that they could not have both come from Sirhan's Ivor Johnson cadet revolver. Von Prague actually found 2 sets of these double shots. Additionally, he found that 5 of the 13 gunshots featured a unique audio resonance characteristic that could not have been produced by Sirhan's gun model, meaning those 5 shots were fired from a second gun of a different make. Von Prague further found that those 5 gunshots were fired in a direction heading away from Pruszynski's microphone. These are documents from the LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department, that reveal the LAPD misconduct in the police investigation of the Robert Kennedy murder. They detail evidence that was destroyed while Sirhan's appeal was still pending, as well as a photograph that was acknowledged by the LAPD to be effective rebuttal, but was withheld from the defense team. Indeed, the LAPD and the LA County District Attorney knew 2 hours after the shooting of Senator Kennedy that he was shot by a second gunman, and they had conclusive evidence that Sirhan could not and did not do it. The official records show the prosecution at Saran's trial never had one witness. They had no physical nor ballistic evidence to prove that Saran shot Bob Kennedy. Evidence locked up for 20 years shows that the LAPD destroyed physical evidence and hid ballistic evidence exonerating Saran, and covered up conclusive evidence that a second gunman fatally wounded Robert Kennedy. Who would have, if this man is to be believed, and it's very difficult to believe that a 91-year-old would make all of this up, why, what would be his reason? He was literally shot by Saran and is taking a stand and saying that this is ridiculous and that this has become political and that there was corruption and that actually this guy was just supposed to be the person who was blamed. Very similar to what we are learning about the JFK shooting. Get one guy who you're supposed to put the blame on, and how did that guy get crazy? Oh, I'm going to guess he was probably MK Ultra.
Let me just ask you a question. When did you start remembering things after the shooting? What was the first thought that you had after the shooting?
Everything was always hazy in my head about that. And Attorney Teeter, who passed away, was trying to get a specialist, Dr. Herbert Spiegel in New York, to hypnotize me and to regress me.
But how perfect the story. Anti-Zionist Palestinian kills a beloved Kennedy. Kennedy curse, guys? Nah, I'm thinking more like Operation Every Kennedy, Operation Keep Tabs on every member of this important political family always and forever. He was a senator and he was gaining a lot of